Yeah, no, you kind of ruined that shit. Thanks, though. It's whatever. You don't care. Like, literally, I hate when she does shit like that. Like, I told her I'm streaming. She just randomly says shit. Like, this shit's so fucking annoying, dude. Like, actually, I can't play games. Like, I can't do shit. Like, this is why I don't want to be on the phone with her all the time. Because she just fucking irritates me, dog. I don't know what mouse to use, dude. I don't know, I guess I'll use the, today. Like, literally, like, she doesn't say shit until it's my part. Like, actual fucking... Like, literally, you can't stay quiet for, like, 4 fucking minutes. Like, holy shit. I tell you I'm about to stream. Start the stream. 5 minutes. Without me doing anything, just an intro towards the stream. As soon as I'm about to say something. Then she has to fucking talk. Come on now. Wouldn't be that hard. I told you I was gonna stream. Come on now. So fucking annoying. Over here, like, trying to fucking do the show. The stream. Jesus. Holy moly. Alright, that's tight. That's not moving. Tighten that up. Alright. It's not moving. Alright.
B&H, how can I help you?
B&H is here. From our homes to yours.
The PlayStation 5 costs $399. Now that we have pretty much all the information we need
It's actually
on
not
both
a bad
the
price.
PS5 as well as the Xbox Series
Not
X
even
and
gonna
S,
lie.
let's take a look because there is a lot to go through here. So the big one, of course, is the price point. So if you're purchasing a PlayStation 5 on November 12th, which is coincidentally only 2 days after the Xbox Series S and X go on sale, then you will have 2 options. Now, if you want the standard vanilla PlayStation 5 with an optical disc drive, that will run you $499. The same price, of course, as the Xbox Series X. However, if you want to go and drop that optical disc drive and go for the digital edition of the PS5, then you'll be able to save a full $100 and pick it up for $399. Now, I don't think I need to tell you that that is a very aggressive price point. There were tons of rumors beforehand that they were having issues trying to get their price down to where they needed, but after last week we saw Microsoft put their cards on the table and show off that very aggressive price point for specifically that Xbox Series S. I think this is really Sony trying to kind of meet them in the middle. Now, between the PS5 and the digital edition, for $100 of difference, you're really not seeing much. Really, you just lose, at least as far as we know, you just lose the optical disc drive. Now, there may be other changes, but as far as we know, there's no spec difference or anything like that, and that is in key contrast to what Microsoft have done with the Xbox Series S. So when you look at the PS5 versus the Xbox Series X, they're actually very equivalent, right? It's the exact same price. You have optical disc drive, you have a little bit more power on the Xbox side, but they're pretty similar. But when you compare the PS5 digital edition to the Xbox Series S, they are very, very different. So if you've seen our video on the Xbox Series S, you'll know a lot of this, but essentially this is a console which will run the same games, right? So you'll be able to play all of the Xbox Series X games as well as a lot of the older like Xbox One titles and whatnot if you download them. But the difference is that it is targeting a much lower resolution, somewhere between 1080p and 1440p. Now on the PlayStation 5 digital edition side, that should have none of these limitations. So essentially it is a full PS5 just without the ability for you to buy and insert your physical game discs. Now, of course, that might be a downside for some, but considering that you're saving $100 and able to still play games at like 4K and 120 FPS and whatever it is that the main console can run, I think that is an incredibly impressive price point. I mean, let's not forget, well, yes, $100 seems like, oh yeah, I guess it makes sense when you look at the Blu-ray drive. But realistically, Sony and Microsoft probably are able to buy those Blu-ray drives for $20, maybe $25 each, which means that Sony are leaving a ton of profit on the table when you buy that PS5 digital edition compared to the physical. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about PlayStation Plus and some of the games that they're bringing out, but generally speaking, I assume that they did this for, first of all, they want to actually be able to be very competitive with the Xbox. And secondly, they're going to make that money up by taking all of that profit from buying those digital games. Because let's not forget, when you buy a physical game, say it's $60, some of that money goes to the GameStop or the Best Buy or whatever the store you're buying it from. Whereas when you buy a digital game, Sony's making that sweet, sweet money.
B&H, how can I help you?
B&H is here, from our homes to yours, as your collaborator.
Well, and Microsoft too. Now, based on the event today, it's clear that they don't have a ton of launch titles, as does the Xbox. I mean, it's looking pretty light on that front across the board. But Sony does have a few things, such as the PlayStation Plus collection, which will give you a large variety of games that will be essentially available if you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber on day one. Now, to be fair, these are all PlayStation 4 games, so things like Fallout 4, Infamous, Last of Us. I mean, there's actually a pretty good selection, but if you're a PlayStation player, you're probably already going to own a few of these. But that being said, it is actually really nice that this is going to be included at day one, so you'll at least have something to play on your PS5. Now, we do have some new announcements. So we do have a date on Spider-Man Miles Morales, which they just said holiday. I assume that means it's actually going to be available for launch. But this is going to be a game that is including not only the remastered version of the original Spider-Man, but also the quasi-expansion pack, the Miles Morales actual game itself, all included for $50. But this actually is also coming to PS4, something that they've definitely been waffling on in the past. There are several other games that will be available for launch. So Black Ops Cold War will be available for PS5 as well as I'm sure Series X. They did show some gameplay of it and it looked good, although some of the things, like if you look at this box here, looked a little bit last gen to me with a sprinkling of ray tracing on top. There was also a very brief trailer for Fortnite, which, surprise, surprise, I mean, it's not on the iPhone anymore, so they might as well put it on the PS5. And there are a few other games that will be available for launch, including Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls. Demon's Soul. Demon's Souls. And actually one of the things with Demon's Souls is they did a really good job of showing just how fast those load times were. I mean, they would be warping between levels and it was pretty much instant, which is a good example of what that SSD inside the PS5 can really do. Another game that really jumped out to me is Hogwarts Legacy, which has been leaked for quite a while now, but we finally have that official confirmation. Now, this is a game that does seem like it will be available across the board, but most of the titles we saw today are console exclusive to the PS5, meaning that they'll also be available on PC. And in fact, the very first trailer we saw of Final Fantasy actually had a big disclaimer saying, played on PC at roughly PS5 spec, and they were immediately like, oh, by the way, all these other games are definitely running on PS5. But that is something interesting. We didn't really see a lot of brand new games today, so I think they had already a couple months ago or last month shown a lot of the games they had. And a lot of the games that they do have coming to PS5 are also available on PC, which is a little bit of a divergence from what we've seen in the past. So there have been a lot of rumors about the PS5, specifically when it comes to how many of the units will actually be available for sale when it goes, well, on sale. So some of this, I think, is always just part of the background noise, right? I mean, there's like, oh, they're going to be making fewer consoles. Oh, they're going to be making more. There were actually a couple of rumors recently that they were having as high as a 50% sort of failure rate on the yields for their SoC, which I can kind of believe there might be some truth there, because if you look at what the PS5 has inside, it has a smaller chip and specifically a smaller GPU than something like the Series X, but they're running it at really aggressive clock speeds. And the thing is, so in the PC space, if you design a Core i7 or whatever the case is, if you design a chip, you can easily take advantage of every single little bin along the way, right? So a Core i7 that might not be quite powerful enough to sort of qualify at that whatever clock speed, they can just sell it as a Core i5, turn the speed down, and it'll be just fine. When it comes to something like a console, there's not a secondary thing, right? I mean, if they can't get that full use out of the chip, it goes straight in the garbage, which makes sense if they're pushing it to like 2.2 gigahertz or whatever, that they may have some yield issues. But all that being said, Sony did come out and basically say, no, It's fine, we have plenty of PlayStation 5s, everything is on track and in schedule, which we'll see how that actually goes. Now, of course, there's another aspect to this, which is the variable frequency. Now again, this is something that I've talked about before, and it's not something necessarily new for the PC space or specifically the mobile space.
B&H, how can I help you?
B&H is here. From our homes to yours.
But in a nutshell, the PlayStation 5 does not run at a standard clock speed. So typically speaking, one of the advantages of a console is that it will run exactly the same no matter how hot it is outside or whatever the case is. You get a guaranteed level of performance, and as a developer, you can really optimize games to get the absolute most out of that performance. Now with the PS5, they've opted to go for a variable boost frequency, which can go up to 2.23 GHz on the GPU, and it can go up to a little over 10 teraflops of overall performance. And while that's great, it seems like they might be pushing the envelope just a little bit. And I know that there's been some rumors about some developers having some issues getting that high level of performance and not having frame drops, right? Because if you've ever played a game on your phone, you will probably know that it runs great for the first 5 minutes, and then as it starts to heat up, your clock speeds come down and you lose performance. Same thing on PC, right? If you start running into any kind of throttling issues, that 60 FPS
There we go. Oh my. Fucking little girl. There's no way he took my kill. Oh, this guy did. Oh. 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 Come here, big feller. Come here, big feller. I'd say I'd have to. I think I like force my hands down. My fingers down. Yeah, definitely my thumb. Like, there's no way I put bullets into that man. Bro, my aim's too good. Now I know. Okay, so now it's a small pattern. Okay. I used to think it's like a big pattern. Woohoo. Boy, I was about to say, that man killed me. That makes no sense. No way, how can I not see that man? He's like right around that corner. Oh, I don't even have chat up. Woo, son. My game crashed. Great, bro. Why is it like when I'm actually going off, though? It's like it only does it when I'm going off.